Hello and welcome to another episode of Sales Haven Insights. Today we're very fortunate to have Aidan McGackie, an experienced sales vice president. Aidan has worked in a variety of different companies over the years, namely one has been Plotbox, which is Northern Ireland based and a lot of people will know. Aidan, thank you very much for joining us. How's things today?
Yeah, very good, Kenny. Thanks very much for inviting me and having me on.
Not a problem at all. One of the things I've sort of seen with Aidan, I've followed Aidan's journey here in Northern Ireland for a little while. He has obviously worked in a variety of different companies. He's helped scale companies up and down. So I think we're very privileged to have Aidan on and share some of his knowledge and expertise. What we're going to do, Aidan, I'm going to jump straight in with the first couple of questions and we'll just see where this goes. Okay?
Sounds good to me.
Excellent. So, Aidan, tell us a little bit about your sales experience and how you got into sales.
Yeah, well, I suppose it's a bit of a cliche, Kenny, to say I stumbled into sales, right? I worked for British Telecom in 2007. I was working on the retail side and e-commerce, and I was using this SaaS technology, right? Didn't even know what SaaS was. It was software as a service technology. There was this cloud-based technology that was helping me with e-commerce and marketing. I thought, oh wow, this is pretty cool. I saw that they were hiring salespeople in London. I thought, you know what, I'll throw my hat in the ring for that. And 2008, 12 years ago, I just suddenly stumbled into sales, and I started my journey in one of the most important places was inside sales or lead generation. So yeah, done it the hard way and done it the best way, in my opinion.
Brilliant. So you started in BT, inside sales, bit like myself. I started there as well. 4 to 5 years of my career was spent in inside sales. And to be fair, it's built me into the salesperson that I am today. Very resilient. And yes, I took a lot of no's. I had a lot of people say no to me on the phone. So you've been there. Then you've moved on. You've been senior sales vice president in different companies and consultant, sales consultant as well for different companies. Talk to me a little bit more about that. How did that come about from being inside sales to vice president of sales? How does that happen?
Yeah, well, I was pretty fortunate in my sales career, and I think it was just my personality and, just being a naturally good at speaking to people, speaking to prospects, closing deals, been very honest about how I approach sales, particularly and within Channel Advisors, an American company I worked with for about 7 years. I just jumped through the ranks, from mid-market to enterprise, and then suddenly became a manager. I suppose that's something I always aspired to be. I thought, I've got good managerial background, outside of the sales life. So I thought, right, I'll try to move into that. And then going through hyper growth, there was opportunities in other countries. So I moved to Australia and took, like a more senior position again as we were building up teams. And then that led me up to like director level. And some of these titles can mean anything. It means different things at different companies.
Yeah.
Somebody told me they were leaving. They were a mid-market sales rep and they were leaving to be a vice president of sales. I thought, wow, like that's a higher title than I have. How many people's on the team? And he said, there's nobody on the team, just him. So whenever somebody said, "Oh wow, you were this, that, or the other," I'm always keen to know, how much revenue or ARR were you generating, or how many people was on the team. But I have had large teams up to 30 sales reps or 3 managers, but it's not necessarily about that. I think it's been able to show that you can put scalable processes in place. And yeah, I've done that at a couple of different companies now, and then also consulted to a few companies as well.
Okay, so that's a little bit about you, and just to let people know, obviously, where you've came from. You have started at the bottom, you have been up to the top, you have helped businesses grow as well, which is very vital in anybody that comes on here as a guest because we want to get that information. So that would lead nicely on to asking you, what would be your top three challenges that you have faced in the sales industry?
Um, Probably the first one would be, starting with that, like a lead generation at the very top of the funnel. Whenever we've had challenges prospecting around data, and maybe we'll tie that in, Kenny, with GDPR, that give
Hmm.
people a lot of kick up the backside, right, to realize, right, where did we get this information from? Are we allowed to use this information? And I think it's particularly important that you're not just buying tens of thousands of leads online. That used to be the old school way, and people's just like picking up the phone and hammering out calls without really knowing who they're calling. So prospecting would probably be one of the first ones I'd lead to. And then within any sales cycle, and maybe that's just my background more been in software and cloud technologies, would be change management. So suddenly you're trying to get people just to change their whole processes overnight, not just the champion inside the company, but you're speaking to other team members. It could be somebody in a warehouse that wants to know how to process orders from this new system, and you're realizing, wow, I'm changing this person's job. So sometimes people don't like change, so that can be um, a little bit more difficult. And maybe the last one for me, and a challenge that will still exist in sales, is removing emotion from sales. And what I mean by that is you can work with that prospect that you admire, you like their website, maybe you purchase from them, or you get on great with them, right? You talk to them about your kids and about football, but if there's no deal in place, then maybe you shouldn't be talking to them. So it's very, very hard to remove emotion from looking at your pipeline and removing deals that aren't real. So that's probably the three biggest challenges either I've seen in the past or some of them I can continue to see today.
Yeah, and I think that last one's interesting, because a lot of sales professionals will tell you build a relationship with your prospects, build a relationship with the people that you're speaking with. Um, and just there's a fine line, you've got to tread carefully, and you've got to build that rapport, and you've got to find out what this particular prospect likes. But you can't be, like you've alluded to, you can't be wasting your time on building a relationship with somebody who actually isn't qualified. So could you just touch briefly then on some of the challenges? So prospecting, change management, um, and again building relationships there, and without a deal in place. How do you overcome some of those challenges?
Yeah, so prospecting, I'll probably say to, working along with your marketing team. And I mentioned in this earlier, just as a sales rep, you can still work with the marketing manager, marketing director, make sure you attend those meetings, ask the right questions, know how to use your CRM, if it's HubSpot, Salesforce, or whatever, to be able to pick some of the warmer leads. You can also be doing your own prospecting, lots of valuable information on LinkedIn in particular, which is a great prospecting tool in itself. So you can help enhance your own data. Don't wait for things to come to you in sales. You can uh, get up off your seat and make things happen for yourself. Within the second one, in change management, I think something that's very good for that is case studies. So it's really relatable if you can say, look, this is what a similar company in your industry is doing. Of course, is the way the world's moving at the moment. In particular, that could be like a video case study, a PDF,
Yeah,
or even just explaining on a ROI calculation for anybody that's going to be involved with this software change. Hey, this is how you're actually going to save time. It's going to be more enjoyable for you. A little bit of work at the start to implement these systems, to implement these changes, but it's going to be better for you overall. So I'd say that's probably some of the most important things. And then just touching back on that, removing emotion from the pipeline. I always recommend to reps that, yes, do your own pipeline reviews, but do a pipeline review with somebody else in your team. So just two sales reps together and just challenge each other, right? Because they're probably going to accept it a little bit better than it coming from a manager or VP of sales or whatever. You just say, hey, what's the next steps in this deal? Do you realistically think that deal is going to close this quarter?
yeah,
Or ask those questions to the prospect. Say, hey, yeah, great talking about the football match last night. I'm telling my boss that this deal is going to close this quarter. Is that a realistic commitment? And have you got that signed off internally? Are me and you on the same page here? Right. So, and that moves a little bit more into the challenger sales model. You
yeah,
should also be able to make your prospect feel a little bit uncomfortable. I'm really great. Yeah, hopefully we are, friends or maybe see at an event, but we're talking business here, right? We're for both sides. So
yeah,
asking those direct questions can be important as well.
yeah. And again, you've touched on something there, by talking about your challenges that I'm very, very passionate about, and it's sales culture. Um, okay, we have to sell ethically. Okay, we can't sell random products that don't help the customer, because it's going to put a bad taste in the customer's mouth, and they're never going to come back to you. So you've got to have a bit of respect for the customer you're selling. You've got to believe in the product you're selling. But sales culture is a very, very big thing that a lot of companies are actually missing. Um, and what you've touched on there is a little bit of sales culture, because you're getting your peers to hold you accountable. You're also you're getting your management to take a step back and ask you the hard questions. Okay, is this deal in place? You know, uh, can I actually hold you accountable? Can my peers hold me accountable? What's your views on sales cultures at the moment? Because for me personally in Northern Ireland, sales cultures don't exist. A sales culture is a sales manager or sales director going to their staff, right? This is this target, get it in. That's it. And if you don't bring it in, you're getting disciplined. That's a sales culture in Northern Ireland. But me and you might have experienced a different sales culture. In terms of, for me personally, sales culture for me is about holding each other accountable. It's about floating ideas with other people in the team on how to bring in more business. And it's about asking for help because salespeople generally feel lonely, generally feel like they're the lone wolf because they have this single target that they have to achieve. What's your sort of views on that in terms of developing a sales culture, and do we have the right sales culture here in Northern Ireland?
Yeah, so I definitely agree, Ken, in what you've touched on there. And I would say that something that probably ties a lot of that together as well is just making it a fun environment. And God forbid the CEO hears that your sales team is having fun, right? But that's important. It's a really difficult job entering into sales. And for anybody, you should come into work every day and enjoy coming to work. So within sales, I'm saying, oh, we'll make it fun. How does that tie back to the question? They'd be like, well, some of your stand-up meetings every day, is there any fun theme for the day? Is there any small competitions or incentives? Or, on many's the time I've just, give the whiteboard marker to somebody on the team and say, hey, you lead the meeting. I'll just sit here and watch. You know what we're going to go through, the deals, the tactics of the day, but let the sales rep lead it. And then they're going to be a little bit more open, right? So you were mentioning about them sharing, asking for help, is trying to make it transparent and open communication within a team. So I think that's definitely very important. And my particular style has never been, oh, you sit in an ivory tower. I'm not one for sales titles. I'm happy to sit amongst the reps. If we're going to do a call blitz, you better believe that I've got my ear pods or headset on and I'm going to make calls, right? So you're never too good to go back to what you came from, and that was making calls, sending emails, getting involved with deals, because you're all in this together. That's the way I see the philosophy. And yeah, that's definitely something that can be improved in Northern Ireland, but I think it can be improved in most sales teams globally as well. That's something that will often pop up.
Yeah, completely agree. I think I've followed that approach and that style before, where you put the ownership into the reps' hands. You allow those guys to own the sales function because again that holds them accountable, but it also makes them feel like they're a part of the process. I'm sure over the years we've both worked for those ivory tower sales managers who just shake the stick at you and tell you to get on with it, but that doesn't help people. So this type of stuff that we're doing here today is very, very useful because it helps people to understand and to change their mindset about sales, about how they go about their sales function. So thank you very, very, very much for sharing that. One of the things I would like to ask you now is your top 3 tips for sales professionals. So how can sales professionals become better? What would be your top 3 tips?
Um, Probably the first one would be to assess what some of the top players are already doing within a team. And I have to be very careful at saying that. I'm not saying that go and copy the top person and do exactly what they do. I'm saying assess and review what they do. There must be key elements within their plan of what they're doing day in, day out that's making them successful.
Hmm.
You should also test some of that for yourself, but add your own style or your own flair to it. So I think looking at the top performers and adapting that for yourself is one of the first ones. Would say the second one would go back to being a tip is being honest. Like that's really a big thing for me, and that also includes the ability to walk away from deals. So if there's a fit that you've realized or a barrier that you know previously that there's been a churned customer or deal because of that, feel free to walk away and admit it, because well, that person could change companies after a while. They might think, you know what, that was a really decent salesperson. And whenever you are honest and do get good new business won for your company, referrals is one of the best things you can get in the world. Somebody saying, hey, you should call and ask to speak to Kenny. He's really good. He'll walk you through everything that's needed. And then the last one for me is I'm a numbers guy. For an individual sales rep to know your numbers, don't worry about what's happening in sales meetings and your sales management's dashboards. That's on you as an individual to know your numbers and what you need it. How many calls do you need to make? How many ops do you have in your pipeline? What stages are they at? What's the weighted pipeline? What's the weighted pipeline meant to be at that stage? Can you get to your number? based on what you have available to you today? How many deals did you create from net new sources? How many are returning customers? So everything around knowing your own numbers, I think, is something that reps can always double down on.
Yeah, totally agree. Some very valid points. That last one is sort of rung true to me there in terms of, so know your numbers. Going to go back to sales culture with this one because I have worked in a variety of companies, and a couple of them have just been report heavy. So you've got a CRM system, and then the sales manager sending you out an Excel sheet, and what they're actually asking you to do is to transfer the data from here to here, so this sales manager can then take that information into the CEO or the white hat meeting, the red hat meeting, and give this information delivered to the management. Now, for a sales rep, that's actually adding on additional admin time. That's reducing the sales rep's time to sell. So what's your views on that? Because yes, you may be a numbers guy, but in terms of reducing the selling time and, you know, making sure that the reps are using the system correctly so that the sales management doesn't have to ask for an Excel report. What's your views on all of that?
Yeah, so if possible, you always want to have a good relationship, manager to team member, whatever terms your or titles you're going to give them. So that's important that there's that communication that you're able to ask. So the first thing is just asking, either in an open meeting if you feel that's how it's applicable to communicate, or privately. It's like, so what is this for? Why do I need to do that? And how does this help you? Because maybe there is a reason that helps you and you haven't understood that yet. Maybe marketing is going to send an email on Friday inviting everyone to the webinar, and you've just entered lots of net new leads, right? Or going back to what you mentioned about selling times, is maybe that's a good tactic to discuss with your manager. Say, hey, I'm really productive at 9 a.m., full of energy. I've got my Starbucks, I'm in the office, I'm going to put my headset on and make all my calls and chase all those deals that are at the end of the funnel. I'm really, really unproductive at the phones at 4 p.m., tired, thinking about what I'm going to watch on Netflix tonight. That's probably a good time for me to do data entry. But that's like tactical strategy discussions to have with your manager. So I think just having that conversation directly, because every business is different.
Yeah, yeah. And on the data front, extracting data from a CRM system. For me personally, this is just my own personal opinion. I don't believe that any rep should have to pull their numbers or their statistics from a CRM system and put it into a different format in order for a sales manager to present that to the CEO. For me personally, if the company has invested in a good CRM system, every person from the sales manager to the CEO to the sales and marketing director, they should all understand how to click a button and extract that information without hassling the sales rep. Would you agree with that, or do you think that extracting the data and making the sales reps put this into different formats is the right thing to do?
It's not for a salesperson to do just generally. I agree that everybody should be able to use the CRM. And that maybe goes back to what I was saying about change management. Whoever sold in the Salesforce CRM solution, the HubSpot solution, they have to realize that it's not just the sales manager and the sales reps that's going to use this. You mentioned, well, marketing also uses it, maybe the CEO. So everybody has to believe in the system and have training within the CRM. The CRM is the hub of the business for me. So if anybody's asking, hey, what deals is going to close this month, and could you let me know? It's like, you could just refresh my dashboard and not even send me an email. Or how about I subscribe you to my dashboard and you can get it every single Monday, and I'm going to tell you the deals we lost last week, the deals we won, the reasons we lost deals, the reasons we won deals. I'm just going to have lots of graphs. I said, you can look at that information in your own time, because I'm really busy here with my team. I said, but feel free to ask any questions you want. I said, but I'm
Yeah,
not exporting it, I'm not changing it, I'm not putting it in Excel, I'm not putting it in Google Sheets, because we have a CRM for a reason. And some of these CRMs can be quite expensive. That's what they're there for. So for everyone to
100%.
jump in and get the information you need. And you know what? Let salespeople sell.
Yeah, I totally concur, and that's where I was going with that. I don't know. It might be just in Northern Ireland, but I'm sure it's right across the world where CRM systems are being placed into companies, and the CEO or the sales and marketing director or the senior figure in the business is taking literally nothing to do with the system, and then it's coming and kind of torturing the sales managements to pull reports. Guys, for me, what I would say is please stop that. You know, get some training. Go and get the training that you need to allow you to simply click a button, pull the information that you need to pull, and let your sales team get on with selling. Stop asking them for reports. Myself and Aidan probably included, being in a sales management position before, we have had to pull reports. Do you know how long that takes? It's a pretty long time to get all that information from, say, 20 to 30 reps, and then to tweak that information to make sure it's in the right format just for you to view whenever you can click a button. So yeah, I think CRM systems are vital for any business, but like you say, they must be implemented correctly, and everybody must be on board with that. Um,
Absolutely.
so that would kind of lead on to another question that I have for you. In terms of the sales, the sales methodologies that are being used today and the way that people are selling, is there anything that you would change about how people are selling today?
Well, as you probably know, Kenny, like I'm a big fan of social selling. I touched on the challenger sales model. I'm familiar with spin sales model as well, but I have always been a champion of social selling. So,
Okay.
really just pushing your message out there on LinkedIn, networking, connecting with other people in relevant industries. I would say there's some sales reps that are fantastic at it, but it's probably one of the biggest gaps that I'd like to see change within industries is see more and more people actually realizing that you can find out a lot of information from LinkedIn
Yep.
before making a phone call, before sending that first email.
Yep. So for me, I'm a big advocate of LinkedIn. LinkedIn has been my success for the last 5 to 6 years. LinkedIn is how me and you connected.
It's
Um,
true.
it's the most up-to-date business directory in the world because people like to keep it up to date. People like to let people know where they're going. They like to get that little dopamine hit every time there's a like on a new job that they get. So, use it to your advantage. For me, I call it combination prospecting in terms of, so we have emails, we have the phone, we have LinkedIn, and then we have inbound marketing solutions that your marketing team will utilize. Would you use all of those methods yourself? What way would you go about prospecting and bringing in the LinkedIn, the social selling aspect?
Yeah, so if it's net new prospecting, I'm a big fan of LinkedIn Sales Navigator. If you already have the leads within your CRM already, and you're more just thinking, okay, I'm at the stage where I want to reach out, um, I absolutely love cadences or sequences. Sequences if you're using HubSpot, maybe cadences if you're more down the Salesforce side. And that's really just those first touch points you're going to have. Maybe it's up to 7, 10 different touch points. The first one could just be a call. Guess what? You're probably not going to get through, but that's okay. You can get lots of valuable information. You could maybe get to see, is there a voicemail that you hit? Or if you do get talking to the person quickly, and yeah, sure, of course, you're always running to a meeting. Can you confirm anything? Hey, yeah, look, I admit this is a cold call, but is it okay if I send you some information through an email? Maybe we could catch up tomorrow at 9 o'clock. So first one, call, then email. So it's probably a couple of stages in, Kenny, before I would be on to the social selling. A lot of
Okay.
people maybe confuses LinkedIn with Facebook, spend all day on it. So I'm still selling, but I'm going to do my stages first of a call, email, and then so maybe I'll link in with you. And maybe around stage 6 or 7, I'll send you a message on LinkedIn to say, hey, I'm not sure if you saw some of my emails. And then, of course, there's other things you can be doing, sharing content, tagging them in the comments, or commenting on their posts, as you mentioned as well.
Mhm. Okay. That certainly helps because there's a lot of people out there that I know, UK and Ireland, that use LinkedIn, but there's a lot of sales reps that don't use it, and they're afraid to use it because they do see it as they just see it, like it says, like another Facebook, another social media channel, and they just scroll, and they're addicted to scrolling, and they'll like something and they'll do this, but they've no strategy behind it. So for you, your sort of strategy at the start is make those couple of first interactions before you actually jump into social
Yes.
media. Okay, okay,
If you already know who the prospects are within your CRM, and you know what, it helps that you've kept LinkedIn closed maybe for a couple of hours. If you're aware of the target addressable market, the TAM that you're going after, then yeah, sure, you might start if you're using something like LinkedIn Sales Navigator, but then you're really going to have to do that process of taking these leads you've got from LinkedIn and putting them back to the CRM, because the CRM is king, always is.
Yeah, 100%. And it's interesting that you've described your methodology with sales, social selling, and how you've linked that up to the process on the CRM. And a lot of people forget about that. You know, there's a process that the CRM has been designed to help you with your sales process. A lot of people forget about that. I do often sometimes, and my process in using social selling would probably allude to that. Um, Most of the people that I have on my LinkedIn, I interact with on a regular basis, but I spend about 20 minutes a day on LinkedIn, and that's it. After that, it's closed down, and I'm doing the rest of my social sort of selling activities. But I will have a target list of people that I want to speak with. And I will interact with those specifically, and it's a simple case of putting their name into social media, looking at their last post, and liking it, commenting on it, moving on to the next person on the list. People will connect with someone, and I'm sure you've been a victim of this. People will connect with someone straight away and send a sales message instantly. I was like, guys, literally, I had a lady connect with me. I had to say, no, I don't accept sales messages. I'm sorry. And then that connection was removed. And a lot of people do that now. That is essentially the equivalent of cold calling on social media, and people don't like it. So the way that I do is I interact, I connect with people. I have a target list that I want to speak with, and I'll probably do that for at least 2 months before I even speak to them, before I even pick the phone up, because that person will know who I am. They'll probably have looked at my profile, and they've probably interacted with me on some of my content or responded to my interactions to some of their content. So that person knows who I am and is warmed up. Would you follow any other methodologies like that yourself? Would you be as
Yeah,
stringent
well,
in your methodology?
I think it depends, Kenny, on how many people that you're going after, right? So, if you have 1,000 prospects in your name, um, because your role is mid-market or inside sales, so then it's really hard even to be wondering where does LinkedIn play a piece in this? What if it was a really strong inbound marketing team you had beside you? So those people were already reading PDFs, filling in demo requests. I could ignore LinkedIn, jump on these as quick as possible. However, if you're account based selling and perhaps you have 50, 100 large enterprise accounts in your name, and there's maybe 5 different people that you could pitch into, then your slightly more stringent approach could be a lot more relevant. But I still would have it within a cadence or sequence of this is what I'm going to do. I don't want anybody to miss out on, oh, wait, I liked lots of posts and give them lots of thumbs up, but I didn't even send them an email ever through the CRM.
Yeah,
So yeah, there's a few things there.
yeah, and this is the other thing. Likes don't get sales. As much as you would love them to get you sales, likes don't get you sales. So one of the things that I always say to people when I speak to them as well, Ian, and I don't know if you would do this either, but I always like to dive in. So when someone likes my content, or when someone likes the content of the company page or whatever it might be, I'll actually look at that person's profile. I'll look at their sort of seniority level. And if I feel that they are a decision maker, I'll actually pick the phone up and I'll be like, listen, I've seen that you like some of our content.
Yes.
What was the purpose behind that? Would you kind of do that?
Yeah, so there is lots of even good insights on the free version of LinkedIn, and then as you move to some of the more paid subscription models, even on LinkedIn, you are able to see who's been looking at your profile. But it's not rude to ask somebody, "Hey, how's it going? Noticed you were on my profile," and particularly, Kenny, if they're a second or third connection. If it's relevant for me to connect with them, I'm probably going to do it at that stage. Highly likely that they accept because they were on your profile already. So, hey, I'm just connecting. You were the one that was on my profile. And it's a little bit like the snowball effect on LinkedIn. So I think, I'm an early adopter on LinkedIn and just about inside that top 15% of people that joined way, way back, or I was really, really early to catch on to social selling. So I just was adding people all the time. And then suddenly my message now is like, hey, I see we've lots of shared connections. You can be connected to everybody. It's
Yeah,
like, so that will just happen. And as you mentioned, some people can be really scared about moving on to LinkedIn. Just add people you went to school with, add your friends, add your colleagues, add your boss. And then suddenly this will just build up that you'll go, oh, wow, like it's recommending all these other people to me.
yeah,
And you know what, as you say, within the sales life, you can be really busy selling as you should be. So maybe it's just something you do in front of the TV. How about you switch and don't have Facebook in your hand? Put LinkedIn in your hand and just do it for 10, 15 minutes. You're commuting to work. As long as you're not driving,
yeah.
then, have LinkedIn in your hand. Do it on the bus, do it on the tube, do it on the train, whatever your mode of transport is going to be.
Yeah, and again, that what sets good sales professionals and I'm not going to say bad sales professionals, but sales professionals who don't take their job seriously, and that's what sets them apart. Is that those sales professionals who are willing to spend the time researching and looking at prospects, and then once they go in 9 a.m., 8:30, whatever it is, they know who they're targeting. They know who they're going to try and speak to in that day. So and again, I'm sure we most salespeople do it. And myself and yourself have probably done it on a regular basis. So yeah, some great tips there on social selling and on utilizing social media to leverage your sales funnel. In terms of cold calling, so we'll use the word cold calling because a lot of people seem to think that it's dead. What's your views on cold calling and what people or how people are using the telephone today? What's your views on how people can maybe do that differently?
So in an ideal solution, you don't need to cold call. And to be honest, I haven't spoke with many sales reps where they've said, yeah, I successfully hit my number without doing any cold calling. If you're not doing any cold calling, high five to the marketing team. They're doing a fantastic job at inbound marketing, right? So understand what you're able to get from your marketing team that's in your CRM already, on your reports of closed lost deals or people you haven't reached out to in 30 days. Okay, then there's a gap. So jumping on to, even Twitter or LinkedIn, that's not going to get you there, right? So it's about understanding the numbers that's going to help you get there. By picking up the phone, if you do know someone's number, and having a relevant good pitch straight away as to why you want to talk to them. Even just acknowledging straight away, hey, just to let you know, I want to be honest, this is a cold call. They're going to say something, and I'm going to go straight back and say, I wanted to talk to you about this, this, and this. 5 minutes. Have you got that for me today? Right? Sure, that might not work all the time. Maybe I'll change the pitch for the next call. Then I get the opportunity to follow up with an email. He goes, oh, wow, that's a crazy guy that was shouting about wanting 5 minutes of my time. And then he just sent me a really compelling email. It's a compelling email because I've tried 10 different emails and I know my numbers based on which one gets the best response rate.
Yeah,
If they don't respond, it's going to follow through the steps, which may lead to social selling. So the point for me, um, cold calling or calling in general, the amount of sales reps that if somebody asks a question via email, they sit typing out this essay back, I'd be screaming, pick up the phone and talk to them. Just talk to them. It's easier for you to tell them this answer on the phone rather than typing in an email. So calling is not dead and cold calling is definitely not dead. They all play important parts.
yeah, 100%. My rule is if it's more than a paragraph long, even at a long shot, pick up the phone. You know,
I like it.
that's if you're writing out an email that's more than a paragraph long, or even a couple of lines, um, and you have to really spend more than 15 minutes writing that email out, that's something that you should be picking the phone up to call your customers. Like I say, I'm a big advocate of the phone. Um, the term cold calling, not so much, because I think cold calling implants a negative thought into people's brains, and it instills fear into some people. So rather than for me, a tip for people who are making these calls, call it a prospecting call, because you're trying to connect with a prospect. If you've did your prospecting, your combination prospecting correctly, where you've used LinkedIn, you've used an email, and now you're using the phone, you're probably going to find that person already knows what you're calling about. And once they hear your name and the company you're calling from, they will probably either shut you down right away and say, listen, read your information, know what you're calling for, I'm not interested. Happy days, you've qualified that person out, move on. But if they give you 5 minutes, they're a little bit interested. They want to hear a little bit more. So, like you say, have your pitch perfect. Know exactly what you're going to say to this specific decision maker, and you're probably going to increase your chances of at least getting a proposal through. So yeah, I'm totally there with you. I think the telephone is not dead. Don't believe the hype. Don't let people think that the telephone is dead. There are, and again, this is yourself. And I'm really really happy that this is coming from you because you are a social seller as well. You know, you're like me. We like to be
Big
online.
step.
And we like to be selling online. And I think actually do me a favor. Define social selling. Just to put you on the spot. Define social selling. What does that mean to you?
Well, it's within the selling methodology, first of all, right? So you're selling something. So the reason I mentioned that part of it first is that is the end goal, is to sell something or to network and get you towards a sale at a later stage. The social element, particularly, is LinkedIn. I do have it set up for Twitter, and I've got different lists for work and prospects and friends. I've added lots of prospects on Twitter as well, particularly if it's going back to that enterprise selling mode. So social selling is the steps involved within a sales process in combination with email, in combination with phone calls, in combination with what your marketing team's doing. So social selling is you within your own social media presence, also trying to use that to move the deal forward or engage with prospects.
Okay. One of the things that a lot of people get confused, and the reason I've asked that question is so that people can clearly understand your view on social selling. Because people, when you say social selling to someone, um, they instantly think that you're jumping on social media and you're just selling. You're just, this is my product, buy now, buy now, buy now. Um, for Facebook, that might be right because for Facebook, you have a shop and you're directing people to your shop and they've got a buy now button. But for LinkedIn, you don't have a buy now button. You know, you don't have a shop. So when you're social selling, for me personally, it's content marketing. You're dropping those breadcrumbs and you're allowing people to be informed and to get that information that they need to have to sell or to buy. So you're providing information that allows people to make an informed buying decision. And by the time you pick that phone up, they should have enough information to make at least a small decision on whether they're going to talk to you. So don't be fooled by the term social selling, folks. I think people can get the misconception that it's all about this is me and I'm going to sell your product, blah blah blah. Don't fall into that trap. Aidan has provided some really, really, really good tips today on what you should be doing to social sell. So Aidan, listen, thank you very, very much for that. That kind of wraps up the quick fire questions as such. Um, Aidan, where can people find you, and what are you up to at the moment? What kind of opportunities are you looking for?
Yes, of course, LinkedIn's a good place to start. Search for Aidan McGahey. Mentioned him on Twitter as well. So at Aidan's Online, I've quite a good presence on there. So that's probably the two easiest ways to catch up with me. Doing some consultancy at the moment to a software company in Belfast. Probably going to ramp that up with a few other clients. That's something I've done previously. Really, software as a service, small sales teams, startups. I have spent 7 years at a company that did end up on the New York Stock Exchange. So I've got experience in lots of different areas within sales. Happy to talk to individual sales reps if there's something I can help with. Happy to help CEOs. So I'm available for consulting as needed.
Okay, perfect. Well, listen, thank you very, very much for providing your insights. Really, really enjoyed today, and hopefully we'll speak again soon. So thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Kenny. Have a good
Thanks,
day.
Aidan. Bye.